Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. Before we meet today's guest, as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button so fast, my friend. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're going to give our sponsors their shout out. Now, remember, these are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're great, and you're going to love them too. So stay with us and then reach out to these sponsors. You'll be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Gipper, the official social media graphic solution for the podcast. If you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to help you create world-class marketing content that will help you celebrate your athletes and promote your teams. Gipper is used and trusted by over 3,000 high school and college programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to find out more. We also want to thank Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, and it was just great. But when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids up to their highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're great ways to show off your school record boards for all the teams, for all their sports, or their school's Hall of Fame, as well as showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast. You'll get a nice discount. vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. It's digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, and more customization. Go to hometownticketing.com to make the best online ticketing solution. We want to thank Snap Raise for their support. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks on a fundraiser and then got little, if any, return? Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. It works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out all of their great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, go to snapraise.com. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that I used every single day as an athletic director, and so will you. Home Campus is your one-stop for things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't do that every day? Uploading digital forms, connecting with coaches, with parents, your state association, submitting rosters. Home Campus does everything that you do as a high school AD. And all you have to do to get started is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and scoreboards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their scored boards and their score tables in action. Their products not only generate income for your athletic department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. And finally, we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, or even your parents, you're really missing out. Now, athletic directors already get feedback. They hear from the complainers, the people who want to gripe about everything. Athletic surveys will connect you to that group, but they'll also connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that'll help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We've got one of our regulars back with us. Regular listeners will recognize the name, Destiny Brightman. Destiny is a certified athletic administrator, and she's the director of athletics. Very successful program here in North. Got to get my directions right. Northeast Florida. Very active at the state level. Also very active in club sports as well as educational athletics. Destiny Brightman, welcome back to
Well,
Wednesday
thank you.
Wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, for listeners, we're recording this late February, so it's going to be pretty timely when you hear it. Most programs, like Destiny's, is making that transition from winter into spring sports. Um, Destiny, you and I were talking before we started recording about you're entering a new period in your life that coaches and athletic directors are going to go through. I certainly went through it, so I already know what you're going to talk about. But I'll say, what do you have for our listeners this week on Wednesday Wisdom?
Well, thank you again for having me, Jake. I would say that I would like to just talk about the challenges of being an athletic director and what that looks like. So I feel like this is my third year into being, the athletic director here. I was an assistant athletic director for a few years prior to taking on this position. I kind of felt like I knew what it was. I knew that there were long hours. I knew it was, a lot of work prior to getting into it. But I'm at a point now where I have a son that is grown, a daughter that has just gone to college. So I'm in my empty nesting stage. I do feel like prior to this stage, some of the challenges would have been when my children were younger. I'll give you an example. Last night, I was here for 15 and a half hours. And so while that doesn't seem realistic to a lot of people, especially when you have families at home, it's the reality of the job. There's just some days are longer than others. And what does that look like? What does that make your home life look like? And how do you balance, those days? I am blessed to have a great support system in the school system. So there are times where, I'll just say that sometimes it's not healthy for them to look for the AD at 7 a.m. if I've had a 10 o'clock at night, night. And so my challenges would be that while they were younger, I realized in this position now, I might not have been as successful while they were younger, or I might have been, and I probably could have, balanced my time a little bit more. I think that now with my children being older, it's easier for me to, work those longer hours where, if I had to go to appointments or, leave school right after work, due to my children, that would look different. Having them young, I'm blessed that they were older when I took this job, because I do feel like I am a little bit more successful, because there's a lot. I've been to a few conferences where I've talked to people, and that's one of the biggest challenges is just that, that work-life balance and the hours and how much to give. And so my principal here, he did say something to me which has resonated well. And he was like, Destiny, while you are an empty nester, I don't want you to be the first person at work and the last person to leave. And so I challenge myself to make sure that that doesn't happen. But it is a healthy balance. And so I have been able to develop a core group of people that help me out, and coaches. And I think that whereas delegating might be a little bit challenging, because that's what keeps me up at night is the different things that if I'm not 100% sure that I did it, like, was it done the right way? And so I've learned a lot to let some of that go and be able to delegate, because I do have people that will help me. Yesterday was just a day where I needed to stay here. It was opening season for, baseball, and anything that could have happened. And all of you ADs listening know that that's what happens on game days and match days. And so yesterday was just one of those days. And while it's today, it won't be as long. I do have a week of, in the spring, there are a lot of different activities because of all the sports. I mean, I could potentially be out here for flag football, baseball, and softball going on all at the same time. And what does that look like? So sometimes when I leave the house, it looks as like I'm moving, because I have a bag where I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, already together. And then I have a change of clothes. to put in there, but those aren't every days, but those are some of the challenges of, what it is that we go through as athletic directors.
Now, again, our listeners, I'm sure they can relate to that schedule that you talked about, getting there at 7 a.m. and not leaving until 10, sometimes even later.
Mhm.
Um, as you know, most of my career was spent at private schools in Florida, and I was very fortunate having similar schedules that you just described, but I was very fortunate that our head of school, which would be like your principal,
Mhm.
um, he was very good, and I think I did a pretty good job of communicating with him that schedule. And so those nights where we were turning off the lights in the gym, or maybe it was on the lacrosse field, at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, he knew I wasn't going to be in my office like I normally was at 7:30 the next day. Um, what sort of relationship do you have with your principal in that area? And, maybe what are some other things that you've done to help, your administration, your school understand the demands of your job?
Okay. And that is a great question. I do think that in this position, you have to have a great relationship with your principal for one. It starts there. I was blessed enough that I was his first hire, my principal, I was his first hire. So and being a female, the first female athletic director at this school. And so he's very attentive and very caring. So I share all of my schedules with him. Like he can look at the schedule and see that it's going to be a long week. And so the administrative staff, they come and they help out with all events, but there's certain things that we know as athletic directors that we have to have control of. Like we have relationships with the officials, we have to run, our go fan, that just things that, like, at football games, when if I'm running around crazy and my principal is like, Destiny, we need the lights on. I'm like, I didn't teach you guys how to turn on the lights, little things that, like, so, and then he's like, well, teach me so that if you're busy, I can turn on lights. But I have a great, great relationship. I have, a principal that, like I said, cares and is very attentive. And he was the one who said, like, take care of you. So he knows without, if I call and say I'm struggling, this morning, I just need to give me a few minutes, but I promise I'm coming, because of the amount of hours that, I work. Of course, I think that we're contracted, for certain hours. So, but, I'm not trying to get in trouble with my contract, but in the same sense, because of the hours worked so much outside of that, but even like during the day. So I always say, if you need some help, I stay in the hallways in between the bells that ring, to help monitor the halls. I'm in the cafeteria, I help with the lunch duties, so, and admin, that's what they appreciate, that help. I think that being a coach and having a relationship with a lot of these kids, and it makes it a lot easier for them. Like today, I'll give an example. This morning when I came in, I literally just stood in the hallway, and there were some kids that were athletes come down. I'm like, well, where are you going? Because they needed to be in class, and we're trying to stop that traffic in the hallway. But I know a lot of the kids because I see them, in athletics. And so that helps out. And so I did have one of the admins say, you should probably stand here every day. I said, I think I will, so I'm able to help them in that sense. Because we put our athletes on a higher level, right? So if there's someone that's walking around and they don't want, a lot of people on passes out, I have to tell them, like, you're an athlete and you need to be in class. And so, but there's a lot of support from my principal. I actually absolutely appreciate him. I love having the opportunity to work for him. But just the entire administrative staff. They can call me if they need any type of coverage. And a lot of times it could just be, do you know this student? Because I run into a lot of kids. But yes, so I am like that liaison of when you need that extra hand, they know that they can contact me. And then it makes it, easier. Because then by the end of the day, I can sit down when it's quiet, then I'll get like my work done. And that's a good time for me to work. But during the day, I'm just trying to help throughout the school day and what it is that the school might need. Mhm.
Yeah, and that is a great point for coaches and for ADs to build those relationships with admin and with faculty. I would tell our teachers, If a student comes up to you and says, Coach wants to see me and it's class time, no, they don't. Okay. The coaches will see the kids at practice or at lunch or whatever. And I would tell the coaches the same thing. Don't even think about pulling a kid out of class.
Mhm,
How would you feel if that chemistry teacher came down the middle of your practice and said, Hey,
mhm,
I need to see Billy for a minute. You'd go nuts.
mhm.
Okay. So don't do
Right.
that to the teachers. Great
Mhm.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Destiny, transitioning from winter to spring.
Mm.
Here in Florida, I don't know about other states, but in Florida, we have 28 different sports just in spring season.
Mhm.
So what are some things that you do at your school, whether it's for kids or coaches or parents, to kind of ease that chaos of moving from winter to spring? Anything jump out real quick while we got you?
Yeah, I always say the 5 Ps as a coach: proper planning prevents poor performance, right? And so I try to get my spring kids, I try to get them cleared through athletic clearance, much earlier than the process. So I'm able to, because those are just like the ones that have been sitting around just waiting for things to happen. So I try to do as much in advance because there is an overlap of sports. If we go to playoffs from winter sports and they're kind of overlapping in our winter sport, I mean, in the spring sports. And so I try to make sure all the coaches have like uniforms ordered, everything is in the system. I think I am more prepared in the spring than I am the fall for whatever reason. I know it seems strange because spring is so busy. And I think because knowing that that's already a busy season, I try to have as much done in advance that I can. And so, you'll still get a few kids that come in here and I'll say, "You've been here since August and you're just getting your physical in?" Like, so I try to, but I send out information, to the coaches, and I have them check on their students. So any athletes that I see, I try to put memos out there interested in playing spring sports, make sure that, you have this done. We have interest meetings early in advance to try to get them prepared. So it's busy, but we're a little bit more organized by spring.
Destiny, you mentioned a really key thing for me. It was a triggering phrase there from my days as an AD. Here in Florida, our information management program for high schools, it's home campus. And they
Mhm.
have a feature that you mentioned, athletic clearance. Now, we used it at my school and it was, I'm going to steal your words, game changer.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit with our listeners, maybe from another state, what athletic clearance is and how it works at your school and how it impacts you as an AD?
Oh, absolutely. So I was very intrigued by it just because prior to taking this job, I had done I was virtual. So I am so used to everything being already on the computer, and just the idea of not having to collect that packet of paper and hold on to it in your office for 7 years was already just eye-opening. Like, yes. So the way athletic clearance works is every student has to be cleared through there. So all of your coaches would have a login to be able to go in, and I would assign them to the sports that they play. They're able to see their athletes. It tells them, like I clear them. So I send out information as to how to log in, how to upload your physical. There any signatures of papers that you need, like I put an athletic code of conduct in there. It makes the parents and the students sign it. I have any type of, paperwork that you want filled out, you can upload all of that. It gives you a signature form at the end where it lets you know that this person has completed their athletic clearance. And so I have them come and turn that in. And while it's still paper, there's also a way where you can have them just upload that back into the system where I don't have to, collect that. That was literally the only piece of paper I was collecting. And I just found out, but there are 3 videos that they have to watch from heat illness, sudden cardiac arrest, and concussion. And so they have to watch those videos through it and then upload their certificate. So everything is virtual. And because it's very user friendly, once I send the information out, the parents, they do all of that. And so it's just a click of a button to make sure that they have that in there. You just verify that they have the GPA and they're cleared. And then every coach can access it from their phone or if they wanted to have it on, a computer and look at it. But I always tell them every day before you go out there to practice, look at the athletic clearance, because it could change. If a student's physical has expired, it's going to alert you. So you might go from being cleared today to tomorrow, you're not good because your physical expired, but it gives you all of that. It has been definitely a game changer, very user friendly, like I said before, and great for athletic directors.
Yeah, and two key things that just it still impresses me. Um, the parents can upload that information, and all you are doing as an AD is clicking the box that says student athlete is cleared for participation. Now, you and I talked, we both would help parents do it if they needed help, but it certainly adds a tremendous amount of time to your schedule. And then the other thing for coaches, I would tell our coaches, you give me the kids' names, I'll tell you who's cleared. If a kid shows up on day 3 and says, I want to practice, don't let them practice. Send them to me, and I'll
Right.
let you know if they're cleared. And I'll personally come back to your field or court or whatever it is, say, yeah, they're good to go. Because a lot of times they were cleared from a previous season. So, wow, great stuff. Thanks for that shout out. And again, Home Campus is one of our sponsors, but they're one of our sponsors because I used it, and you just heard Destiny use it. It's a great product. So that's
It is.
athletic clearance from Home Campus. Destiny, I know you've got a busy schedule today. I know you got track meets and other things going on. But if
Yes.
one of our listeners wanted to reach out and add you to their network, and listeners, you got a tremendous resource here, or if they just want to connect and find out how you do things at your school, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
I think social media might be the best. You can follow me at Orange Park High School Athletics. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can also email me at destiny.brightman@myoneclay.net.
And Destiny has a very strong Twitter and Instagram game. She's very active on that. Destiny Brightman, thanks again for joining us today on Wednesday Wisdom, and all the best on all of those spring sport activities coming up.
Thank you.
For listeners, we appreciate you listening. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of these interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every week, so come back next Wednesday for another great Wednesday wisdom tip, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Before we go, we do want to give one more shout out to our sponsors. Now, go and visit these people. They are great companies. They're going to make your life easier as an athletic director. Let's start out with Home Campus. If you're an athletic director, you need to go to homecampus.com. Talk about the athletic clearance feature that they offer. Homecampus.com. We want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Huddle. I used it as a football coach. We were a Huddle school when I was an AD. Go to huddle.com. We want to thank Gipper. Create world-class content for your school's social media channel using gipper.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Their interactive touchscreen consoles are a great way to show off your school records or your school's Hall of Fame. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. If you're looking for a fundraiser, look no more. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. Snapraise.com. And finally, Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com to get signed up. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Wednesday Wisdom. If you're still listening and you're the first person to text me or email me about this feature, I'll give you $100 cash. $100 cash. I've done this about 10 times. Nobody's ever made it this far. So you can be the first one. Send me a text or shoot me an email. The first person will get $100 cash. Have a great day. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.